Hey there, Stacey. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I was really excited. I just saw your new capsule collection this morning, and wow, those pieces they feel really powerful. So I'm
Thank
excited
you.
to dive into our conversation, get to know you a little bit more because until recently, I didn't even know you. So, as you may know, I always like to start with having each guest introduce themselves. So, let's go ahead and do that.
Sure. My name is Stacey Hareid. I am a self-taught metalsmith. I just looked back at my timeline today and kind of wrote some stuff down because my memory is kind of bad, but I'm in my 11th year of teaching myself metalsmithing. So I do a lot of fabrication. My wax bench is right behind me. I just got into wax carving and lost wax casting. Um, about a year ago. Sorry, it's probably been about 2 years now. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So this is my new beast. Um, yeah,
I saw that you also do some lapidary work too.
yeah. I've sort of been very sporadic with it. A whole bunch of years ago, I joined the Mount Hood Rock Club, is a club in town. They do monthly meetings. They do all sorts of like rock hounding events, and then they also have a lapidary studio. Um, and I did a little bit. It's a labor of love cutting rocks,
Mhm.
so I did a little bit of it and then sort of fell out of it and then have gotten back into it again recently. I, over the years, have collected tons of stones and slabs and stuff and then have been able to gather a little bit of equipment. So I have a flat lap and then also now I joined the Mountain Hood Rock Club again. So now that I'm a member again, I have access to, they actually have a new facility and it's big, beautiful, tons of equipment. I'm not sure how big the membership is, but there are a lot of very knowledgeable, wonderful people in that organization. So that's been cool to get back into that. I just recently made some custom wedding rings and I got to cut the stones for both rings and I carved one of them and cast it and then fabricated the other ones. And it was a dream project. It was really fun.
That's so cool. I wish we had a lapidary club here or rock club. We don't have anything like that. So I have the equipment
Yeah,
and I used to just like kind of freeform facet just so that I would have stones that were my own because my work was so simple. And
sure.
now I mostly use it just to adjust stones, maybe cut down the
Hmm.
back of shells or make a nice
Sure.
finish on a slice. So it's still something that I enjoy doing, but I would really like to know more. I am so impressed
Yeah.
that I've been looking through your work, and the fact that you have only been casting for a couple years is really impressive as well. I have the equipment, and again, it's one of those things, it's like it just feels like such a beast.
Yeah, it's been actually interesting. So I ended up getting in touch with I had been looking for a mentor for a couple of years and didn't really know how to go about doing that. I mean, and this was at this point, let's see, let's look at my timeline here. I mean, I was well in, I was probably 8 years in, um, and was looking for a mentor and didn't know how to go about that. I spent years asking just fellow jewelers and just other people in town. I'd post stuff on Instagram. Hey, does anybody know someone I could apprentice with? And I eventually ended up meeting Thomas Tietze, is a goldsmith here in Portland, and he took me on as his apprentice, basically. And so that's sort of where, in conjunction with that happening, I had also wanted to get into casting. So I've had, eh, oddly, throughout my jewelry journey, I've had um, I've just gotten really lucky with people either giving me equipment or me coming across really affordable things. Or so I had put a thing out on Instagram that I was looking for casting equipment, and a fellow artist reached out a week later and said, "Hey, I found this centrifugal caster on Instagram or on Craigslist." I ended up going out and buying it. The gentleman was wonderful. His dad was actually a lapidary artist. And so I ended up buying a bunch of his dad's CADs. all for like a really wonderful price. And then, so I had sort of started leaning into or like looking into casting and gathering equipment. And then I met Thomas, who took me on and then started teaching me carving and casting, among
Well, that's
many other
amazing.
things.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so I got really lucky there because teaching myself, it's been wonderful. But there have definitely, like, looking back, I'm like, man, if I would have had a little bit of help at this point, it would have, it just would have been so helpful. So to have somebody to like help guide me into that first, like, that first push was
Yeah.
really helpful. But I've really been struggling a lot with it. It's been a struggle. So that's something that I'm currently navigating and trying to like, I need to like get over this hump that I just can't seem to get over. But I'm very excited about it. I have all the equipment at this point, and there's, it's like I'm in a transition period, and I've been in this position many times, but for some reason, getting over this hump has been very challenging. So yeah, I was
Yeah,
just
but
telling my
once you
friend,
do,
not
yeah.
used to. I was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say once you do, though, you'll be on your way. It's always like those little, spurts of growth. They're kinda painful, and then once you're on the other side, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just telling my friend recently, I'm not used to failing this much. Like, now that I've, I'm pretty good at fabrication and stone setting and or CAD setting anyways. And so, I definitely have a lot of failures, but not like big major failures consistently. And so to go from like working with ease to then, I feel like I'm kind of starting over almost, where I'm having major failure after major failure. And, but it's just like that thing where it's like, you just gotta keep going until you get over that.
Yeah.
And then once you're there, then it's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah. So I guess, we should
Figuring out
probably
how
back
to.
up a little bit. Oh, no, go ahead.
Sure. Oh, no, I don't no, no, we're good.
So I was gonna say, I guess we should probably back up a little bit. How did jewelry come into your life? Was there a moment that kind of sparked this path for you?
Not real. There are definitely moments that I can pick out, but, since I was a little kid, I've been making jewelry, making little bead bracelets and hemp necklaces and friendship bracelets. Like, when I was in middle school, I was just making hemp necklaces like crazy, and then when I got into high school, I took every art class that I could get my hands on, and I love ceramics. So I was doing stuff like making ceramic beads and then making necklaces. So I've always kind of been like tinkering around making jewelry or just making other stuff. Um, and when I was in college, I studied photography. I went to a technical college and studied commercial photography. And when I was in that program, I took a Metals 101 class, that was in 2000, probably one. And I loved it. I was very intrigued and I was very excited about it. Um, but I was also very interested in photography. I was young. I think at the time, I don't know that it like occurred to me that it was something that I could like pursue. And I was excited about photography at that time. And then I again, like even after that, was always kind of doing like assembly stuff. So like I would buy vintage jewelry and take it apart and put it back together, or, buying charms and beads and things like that, and assembling stuff. And then after I graduated college, I worked for a photography studio for about a year and a half as a wedding photographer, or the assistant rather. It was fun, but very stressful. And at that point, I think I don't know. I knew that that's not what I wanted to do, and I was really eager to move out of Wisconsin. I had grown up in a small town in Wisconsin and just really wanted to get out. And had an opportunity to move to Yosemite National Park and work for the concession company there. So I did that with the intention of staying for the summer. And then I was going to try to move up to Portland. And I ended up staying there for, I think, almost 7 years.
Mhm.
So at that point, again, I was still doing like the assembly stuff, but I was, I mean, I was just on a different thing. I was on a different path. And then once I moved back to Portland, I started doing the Portland Flea, is now a very popular flea market in town. My friend and I were selling vintage stuff that we would collect and repair. And then via the flea market, I met a metalsmith who introduced me to Shop People, which is an industrial art studio in Portland. Her jewelry was beautiful, and I just remember like being like, how do I do this? How do I get my hands, And so I became a member at that studio, and it was really cool. It was really affordable. It was this big, huge industrial art studio, and they had a wood shop, a metalsmithing department, ceramics. I forget what else was in the building, but so I was very excited, and I was also very intimidated. The room, I think it was a pretty small room, and I think there were probably 13 or maybe 15 metalsmiths in there. And at that point, I hadn't had a torch in my hand in probably 10 years, and I had only taken the one class. So I really had no idea what I was doing. And I would show up, and after having watched YouTube videos or, scouring the internet, and get to the space where then I'm surrounded by metalsmiths who are skilled, who know what they're doing, and so I was very intimidated, but I knew immediately, like, this is it. Like I knew that I had found something or figured something out. So for about a year and a half, I forced myself to go to that studio, but it wasn't very often. I mean, I would maybe go once a month or twice a month because I mean, I wanted to go, but I was so uncomfortable that it just was hard. So for about a year and a half after I was there, I ended up getting my own space, or I shared a space with a photographer friend of mine. We had opposite schedules, so I basically had a shop to myself. And once that happened, I just went nuts and just was in my shop. And any time that I wasn't at work, I was in my shop, and that's like when it was like, okay, we're doing this.
It's funny, myself took a number of photography courses, and I have spoke with so many people, including clay artists, and it sounds like photography loses a lot of people. I hear all the
Well,
time, "Yeah, I was in photography and I was doing wedding photography or I was doing this, and then I moved into this."
yeah. Even the last episode, I'm forgetting the gal's name right now, but she said that she studied photography. I'm
Yeah,
forgetting her
Heather.
name right now.
Heather.
Yes, but yeah, so that's interesting.
So then how did you come up with your business name? It feels like it's, pretty rich with meaning. Is there
Yeah,
a story behind it?
I well, yeah, so I actually changed my business name in 2021. I decided to rebrand. Um, so prior to calling my business 47 Sons, I was calling it Rivet and Rise. Um, and that name did not have any sort of, special like value to it. Or actually, that's not totally true. I, my friend Crystal, when I first started metalsmithing, taught me how to make a rivet, and so that was like one of the first things that I had learned. So a lot of the things that I was doing at first were riveted, a lot of riveted rings, and so my initial thought was to just call my brand Rivet, and someone very quickly pointed out that it sounds like ribbit, like a frog. And so the Rivet and Rise, my graphic designer friend just kind of helped me to come up with another word and a design that sort of like, matched my jewelry at that point. I was doing a lot of just wire, like very simple geometric wire stuff. And so the logo looked appropriate, or it looked like it matched. And I was fine with that name. I didn't really, I wasn't married to it by any means. And so after many years of working and just as my style changed and my skills grew, I felt like I had outgrown that that brand or that, Um, and so I wasn't sure how to approach what I wanted. And it actually just came from like sitting in the kitchen and just kind of spouting off random things with my partner at the time. Um, and I had said 47, we were talking about 47 is the is silver on the periodic table,
Yeah,
and suns represents gold. So it's just kind of like a silly
I
way to
love
say
that.
silver and gold. So it's, yeah, so it doesn't have like a deep meaning to it, but just a way to say silver and gold. So yeah, I mean, it's not nothing real deep, but again,
I
I
think it's
felt
really
like,
cool.
and it felt at first I was unsure of it, and we kept kind of going through different stuff and coming up with different things. And I kept going back to it and kept going back to it. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, that it doesn't like paint me into a corner. It's simple, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it just felt good. And yeah, it stuck.
So much of your work feels really quite powerful and bold. And I notice there's a lot of texture and detail in it, and kind of a real sense of warmth. How would you describe your aesthetic in your own words?
Uh, You know, I honestly, I hate this question just because I have never, I don't, I feel like I'm all over the place, and I feel like it's something that I struggle with, or something that I have always, I think, probably put pressure on myself. Like I need to have a definitive style. I need to have an aesthetic. I need to, have a certain direction or a certain thing. Uh, and I feel like I've never been able to get there, but I think that is part of, I think maybe that is the style, is that there isn't there isn't one.
I wouldn't
I
say that. I wouldn't say that at all.
see, and people say that, and I'm not like, even today I scrolled back through my Instagram to just again kind of get a feel for timeline, and even scrolling back through it, I'm like, this is all over the place.
Oh, I was gonna say, welcome to the club. So many people say the same thing, myself included. And if I scroll back too far, I'm like, oh, Jesus. But
Right.
it's still, you'll still see it. You'll still see that thread running through everything. And I
Yeah.
really think that some people excel at having a solid vision, and that's what they do, and they
Hmm.
don't fluctuate a whole lot from that throughout their career, and that definitely
Yeah.
has its benefits. But I think there's many of us who love to explore and love to create a piece just because it's new and it's something interesting, and that piques our interest, and I think that's very, very valid. At least that's what I've
Yeah.
been telling myself for a long time now.
Yeah. It's interesting. It is one of those things that I have pressured myself
Mm.
on, for years and years. And I think now, even in the last, I don't know, year or so, I've kind of tried to stop doing that to myself.
Yeah.
No one else is, I mean, it's not, there is no pressure for me to do anything.
Right.
So yeah, I really like the idea of being able to do all sorts of different stuff. I like to try new stuff, and the idea of
Mhm.
having to do something over and over and over again a million times. I don't mind doing some of that work. I don't mind doing some production work, but yeah, being able to tinker and play with new stuff and try new things.
Right.
And I also like a lot of, as far as my personal aesthetic, like as far as what I wear and do, is all a lot of different stuff too. I mean, it just
Me
depends
too.
on the
Yeah.
day, it depends on where I'm going. Sometimes I like to have really big, weird stuff on. Sometimes I just want a cup, so I mean,
Mhm.
some of what or actually, I would say a lot of like what I make and how and why I make it is sort of based off of like, I mean, I know that I want a lot of different stuff for a lot of different days and moods and whatever else.
Yeah.
So,
You're a
yeah.
really good mirror for me right now because that's exactly how I feel. It's like I don't
Yeah.
feel like it fits any one style. Everybody has different moods, different days, different things they like. Why shouldn't what
Yeah.
we create move with that as well?
Yeah. I also feel like there's so many just different avenues and different techniques and different ways to do things. And, I mean, there's never a shortage of like new stuff to learn. I mean, I want to be learning and doing and figuring out as much as I can. So I feel like I don't want to paint myself into a corner where I feel like I'm stuck doing these four things or.
Yeah, that would just be madness to me. Some
Yeah,
people love it. For me, that would be the definition of madness.
you know, yeah, I get like I said, I don't mind doing some production work, but if that were what I were doing all the time, it would be I mean, that would remove the all of that would take the point out of it.
Tell me about your design process. How does a piece usually come together for you? Does it start with like a stone or a feeling or an idea?
Yeah, so that is also all over the place. Um, I I do a lot of custom stuff. And, so I mean, that obviously is dictated by the client. But a lot of the customs that I do, I get to have a lot of creative freedom. So that's great. But when I'm designing a piece just on my own accord, yeah, I mean, it really does just kind of depend. Sometimes I'll have just like a really crude idea. And I'm not one to sketch or draw out ideas. That's something that I have tried to get into and tried to change because I do think that it could be beneficial, but it just doesn't work for me.
Just give it a
So
few
I
more
will,
years.
right? I have really nice pens and all the paper and all but I try. It just doesn't seem to happen. But yeah, so I will, sometimes I will just have like a crude or loose idea in my head, and a lot of the sketching, I guess, that I do actually happens like in the metal. So I will cut pieces out and take little parts and pieces and start to play. Or at this point, I have a pretty big stone collection or cab collection. So yeah, I mean sometimes it's just picking out a stone that I'm feeling that day and then designing around that. I mean it's just sort of the same type of thing where it's like it's just going to depend on the piece and who it's for or what. Yeah, I mean, I have a shop in Montana that I send a lot of stuff to, and that shop sells signet rings of mine like crazy, so those are really fun because I get creative freedom with those and get to just pump out a bunch of like really cool chunky rings, and they're simple and clean, but yeah, it just kind of depends, I think, on all sorts of different stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of favorite materials that you come back to again and again, or maybe even something new that is kind of exciting for you?
Oddly enough, so when I first started, I was working with brass and copper, and that was basically just out of necessity. I didn't have much money, and that's what I could afford. And I did that for many years and then moved into silver. I would love to work with more gold. I just feel like it's kind of out of my reach at this point. I will, but yeah, I feel like right. And I do a little bit here and there, but
I've backed down quite a bit off of gold too. It's just getting to be so expensive, and as an independent artist, it's like I don't wanna sit on it. I don't wanna hope that
yeah,
this is gonna sell. I don't want that looming stress of, "Oh, this was really expensive," to dictate what I'm making,
yeah,
and I was finding that was happening quite a bit.
yeah.
So when I backed off of that and started moving back to just silver, I was like, "Wow," I was felt so much more creative again.
Yeah. Well, and I have figured out, there are ways to incorporate gold without it having to be a $5,000 piece of jewelry. So I've been trying to do that. But oddly enough, I've been working in brass again quite a bit. Um, and I feel like now that I'm just a better metalsmith, it's a lot easier and a lot more fun to work with now that I'm good at it. Brass is fussy and finicky and not that fun to work with, especially compared to silver. But now that I know what I'm doing and know how to work it, it's much more fun. So like all of those pieces
Yeah.
that I posted yesterday, those are all brass.
And they look incredible.
Yeah, they're clean.
If
They're
I do it,
solid.
I'm gonna have spots, and, it's just it might be the type of brass that I have too, but I used to do mock-ups in it just to see if it was something that I liked, and I'm like, "God, this looks terrible."
Yeah, it really used to drive me crazy. And it's still not my favorite to work in, but I do like the look of it. And making a big cup in gold just isn't an option. So I do like, um, I have been working with it a lot more recently. But I think silver, is probably my preference.
So I'd like to shift kind of into business a little bit here. So then how do you approach the balance between creative freedom and then, the day-to-day realities of running a business?
It's a struggle. Yeah, like I was saying, I do a lot of customs, and that is out of necessity. If it were up to me, I would not do customs at all. I shouldn't say that. I would be very, very selective about
Mhm.
the customs that I do. And I'm very fortunate to have the work. I seem to not have a long list, but I always kind of have a little list of custom projects that I'm working on. So yeah, it's a hustle. It's tricky. I I'm not good at the balance. Actually, I work a lot. I enjoy it. A lot of it's because I just want to be out here working. But yeah, it is tricky. It's been a little bit now that I've had to do that, but for many years I would cater or bartend or do things for supplemental income. But it has been a little bit since I've had to do that. But I definitely always have those types of things in my back pocket. But it's a tricky balance for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any challenges currently as like an independent artist and, business owner?
Um, I f- I feel like my biggest challenge right now is getting into this casting because I feel like once I can get um once I can get over that or get through this transition period, I feel like that's gonna just put me um I don't know, on a different trajectory or something. Like I know that there's something on the other side of it. And I've been wanting to get there it's been almost 2 years now. So I think, I mean, actually, there are other struggles as far as like markets. I don't know, doing markets, social media, that kind of, I feel like all of that stuff is a struggle for what it seems like all of us. I
Sure.
follow a lot of metalsmiths, and I'm in a group. Um, there are like 30 or so metalsmiths that are in a group chat that are all in or around Portland. And we chat and share ideas and just bounce stuff off of each other. And it does seem like everybody's just kind of experiencing the same thing. The markets are really tough. Instagram is impossible. So yeah, and it's weird because it's like a lot of that stuff is not in our control. So yeah, I guess yeah, I trying to figure out where to take the stuff. Instagram doesn't work, the markets don't work, shops take half of the money. Um, so yeah, I guess social media used to be my best friend. I
Yep.
was ripping busy on Instagram for a couple of years, like almost to the point where I was like, I need to hire an assistant, I
Mhm.
think, to then that like halting. So yeah, trying to figure out how to get stuff out there and how to get it to new people or how to, what. what avenues to take. I mean, I don't know. It seems like everybody's kind of on the same
Yeah,
struggle.
yeah. I hear it often, and I think for me, I had to just kind of it's real easy, especially in my position of finding other jewelry artists for the podcast or people find me to look at their work, their business, looks like it's just amazing. And it's easy to compare yourself, to what
Mhm.
somebody else is doing and trying to figure out what you're doing wrong. And I think once I finally just got off that crazy train
Yeah.
and stepped away from it and just really reconnected back into connection with the people that I know are showing up all the time. It
Hmm.
just feels like that's been the thing that really keeps propelling me forward and keeps the consistency. I mean, sure, I have the slow times. Summer is always slow. It always is. And that works for me because I'm not around that much
Sure.
in the summer. But, I'll always say it just takes one person.
Hmm.
And when you're blessed to have some super fans that just love what you do and are there to purchase it, you don't need a whole lot more sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely have folks that have continually supported me for many,
I
many years. And, I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. So then what's a typical day look like for you?
So I work at home, which is really nice. I've had lots of different shop situations and have found that working at home is my preference. So I'm usually up pretty early. I have a couple of little morning routines, and then I'm usually right out here. We just recently moved, and so I'm still kind of getting settled into this new space. Um, has been interesting. It's significantly smaller than my last shop. So I'm trying to figure out just where to put everything. And there's been a lot of rearranging going on. But yeah, I mean, I'm out here most of the time, which is, I mean, I don't mind it one bit, but I do know that there are other things to do in life. So I sort of have to. My partner and I went on a date last night, and he we had talked about it before. I totally forgot about it. He came out like, "Are we going on the date?" I'm like, "I totally forgot. Do we have?" It's like you can leave the shop every once in a while.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, I just love being out here. So, I'm trying to be more intentional with taking time off and just getting out of the house, getting out of the shop and, doing other things. But I do spend quite a bit of time in here.
Can you hear my text messages coming through the computer?
I cannot.
Okay, because I have everything silenced on my phone and I keep hearing a ding every once in a while. I'm like, what the hell? Because I thought I had them silenced on here and I can't figure it out. So I apologize if
Nope,
I don't
I
want
can't
that to
hear
be
it.
distracted. So many of your pieces, they feel like talismans. Do you think about them that way?
I guess I don't. Yeah, I guess I don't.
Don't. Do you
And
have any hopes of what maybe somebody who purchases a piece might feel when they wear a piece?
yeah, I've yeah, I've gotten actually really fortunate. I've been fortunate enough to make some really special pieces for people. I've made a couple of like memorial pieces, um, or like uh, I forget. It's been a whole bunch of years now, but a girl purchased a ring from me that she would wear when she would go get a treatment of some sort. I forget she was sick with something, and she would wear the ring and would fidget with it and would message me and so I mean I've been fortunate to be able to make like some really meaningful special stuff for people and that's huge.
That
Yeah, I
is.
think yeah, I mean it's yeah, I've made some really really awesome connections that have lasted for years. I mean, I made a memorial piece for a woman that I met on Instagram, and I've never met her in real life, but 10 years later, we're friends. She buys stuff from me all the time, and she's just the sweetest. So yeah, I mean, I've definitely been able to make some really neat connections. And yeah, being able to make something that's special like that for somebody is, I mean, that just is, how special, how neat is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an honor to be able to do that. And even stuff that isn't necessarily like that doesn't necessarily have a deep meaning. I mean, I know that there are pieces that I cherish that don't necessarily have that have sentimental value so yeah, I mean it's an honor to be able to do that. I've also been able to make some cool wedding sets, like alternative wedding rings, and that's always really fun and
Mm,
just an honor to be able to be a part of like an ongoing love story is really neat. Um,
yeah. Yeah, I always see, our jewelry even I guess I see jewelry in general as like a touchstone or a talisman when I should say when it's handmade. I know that people can find great joy in mass-produced jewelry as well,
sure.
but I feel like when it's handmade, there's a part of your soul in there, and then when
Hmm.
somebody purchases it, there's something that's speaking to them, and having that touchstone brings about those stories as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah.
So, that's why
Yeah.
I'm always curious, and just as, powerful as your jewelry feels to me,
Yeah.
that's why I was kind of thinking maybe that you were feeling that they were a talisman. But even though you said no, it almost sounds like inadvertently they are.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I think just maybe that word is not something that's
Mm,
that like or do you know what I mean? That
right.
specific word is maybe just not something that like floats around in my head. Uh,
Sure.
but yeah.
So do you ever find yourself in some creative funks?
Yeah, I do. I do. I feel like I'm in one currently, which is kind of funny because I just made a bunch of pieces that I'm really happy with. But I think I tend to, have like ups and downs that'll last a couple of days. I'll feel stuck or unmotivated or whatever. And then that will usually go away in a few days or so. But I, the wax and the casting has really kind of put me in a funk that I've been in for a long time
I get that. I
where I'm like,
absolutely
is
get
this
that.
ever gonna go away? Um, yeah, so I do. I feel like I've been in a very prolonged funk. And I'm still making stuff and creating stuff and happy with a lot of the stuff, but I feel an overall just sort of stuck funkiness that I know I can get out of and that I will get out of, but it's definitely the longest funk that I've ever been in for sure.
So then I guess, maybe my next question, I was gonna ask you what's feeding your creative spirit lately inside or outside the studio?
Well, so I am feeling a push to get over this hump that I am stuck behind. And I'm sure you probably know you're familiar with Metalsmith Society. So I just saw Corky has been practicing engraving and I think maybe just engraving every day for an hour. And I saw somebody ask her, like, how do you do that? How do you get the time in to do that? And she said every day she does it for an hour right at the beginning of the day. And that like I was like, that's what I need to do. So that's my new plan is to come out here and sit at this wax bench every day for 1 hour and practice before I do my other stuff. And just that plan has got me excited.
So is it the wax that you're challenged with right now or the actual process of casting?
I would say the wax. I've Yeah, I've struggled a little bit with the casting process, but I think it's just lack of practice. Like I just need to practice it more. But the wax carving has been extremely challenging for me. Like I was saying, I typically go in with like a very crude idea or maybe just no idea and kind of start playing. You can't do that with wax, or you can, but you, if you're going to carve a ring out of a big chunk of wax, you have to have a plan. You have to execute it in a certain way. You have to grid things out, and so it's just such and it's I'm used to building and fabricating. So here I'm taking away, I'm carving, and it's just a very, very different process that, yeah, I mean, so far I haven't like, I mean, I've definitely had things click, but like, and I don't know if I just need to take a class or I'm not exactly sure maybe it's just that I need more practice. But it's, I'll spend hours and hours and hours carving something to then like have it break or to screw it up in the casting process. And that, so it's felt very defeating. Um, but yeah,
It's very intimidating to me.
yeah.
I haven't done a lot of it. Anything that I carve is very crude or very organic,
Hmm.
and I kind of liken it to sculpture, and I don't have, at least at this point, I don't have the thought process of how you get from, idea to the actual piece that looks a certain way, how you take
Yeah.
those things down. This
Yep.
feels very, very different. Now I could see how to build it up,
Hmm.
again, building. So that's one of my intentions too, is to sit down and spend some time carving and spend some more time casting, but I'll probably keep it really simple still.
Yeah. I've like, I have a standard for what I want to put out. I've been known to like fix stuff to death. And so it's hard for me to make something that I don't feel great about and then want to put it out. So like that, I'll carve a bunch of rings, cast them, and then I'm like, they're okay, but I'm not thrilled with how they came out. And then what do I do with that? I guess so I think, yeah, I think just sort of adjusting my expectations and, I mean, I just have to practice and I got to start down here to get, so it's hard after, doing something that you're good at for many years to then have to feel like you're almost starting over again. It has just
Oh,
been,
yeah.
it like kind of rocked me a little bit.
Yeah. That's why I haven't done it. Because it's like, it does. It takes, I mean, I think of all the hours I put in over the years with metalsmithing. And, there's days that things don't come together quite as well as I'd like them to. And I know it's just a day.
Yep.
And I still see myself as getting better and better and better all the time.
Hmm.
So my patience for learning something as in depth as wax carving and casting is not there, because I know that I could be doing that for another lifetime.
Yeah.
There's just so much, there's so many little nuanced aspects of it, I guess I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like me, I know that you've said that you're primarily self taught.
Hmm.
Is there any advice you'd want to share with somebody who's looking to begin metalsmithing or even to create a business as a maker? Because, all of that, it's all a learning process. I mean, it's so exciting to come into metalsmithing, and then it's like, oh, now I have to learn business.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like looking back, I think one of the things that I would share with people is to really, really practice patience. When I first started, I was in a really big hurry to get everything done and to make progress and to, I was just in a big hurry. And so I would rush through everything. And it took me many years to figure out that if I slow way down and take my time with every step of the process, that once I get to the end, the piece is going to look better. I'm going to feel better about it. I will have had a better time. I won't have to sit for hours and try to clean up little chunks of solder that I did, it took me a really long time to figure out that I need to be patient with every single step of the process and that in the long run that's going to pay off. And once I figured that out, I mean, and I still, that's a continuous, I'm still
Yeah.
there. I rush through stuff all the time. Like, you gotta relax. It's like you're making it harder on yourself.
I always find myself holding my breath. I'm like sawing and holding my breath at the same time, like, this is not good.
Right. so, so yeah, so being patient in every step, I think is super important and something that I wish I would have learned earlier. And I also think that I wish I would have taken a class earlier than I did. I spent a couple of years just on the internet and, YouTubing stuff, which worked fine. But then 3, 4 years later, I'm like, take a class and then I'm learning, wow, if I would have done this, like, I mean, it would have saved me so much time. And even just like a simple, like 101 day class or something, where you get just a little bit of guidance from somebody, I think can be just really beneficial. The business side of things, I still struggle with and don't enjoy that part of this. um, I actually am very lucky in that aspect too, because my dad and my sister own a business together and they've been in business for many years. So I have them to lean on when I have business questions or tax questions and things like that. Um, I don't know what I would have done or where I would be without my little sister helping me. But yeah, that part of it is very tricky. There have been many times where I wanted to take a business class, like take like I don't know, something at a community college. And my dad, oddly enough, has always discouraged me from doing that. And he says, you just talk to us.
Mhm.
But, and I think at this point, I don't know that I would, but I almost do wish I would have done that at some point too, because I do feel like the business side of stuff is still foreign to me and still a struggle and just not what I want to deal with.
Yeah, I think it took a long time for me to understand that I really, as much as I didn't want to, I really needed to know my numbers. I
Yeah.
needed to understand that there was going to be a certain amount of production time and a certain I would have to sell so many pieces at such a price to
Yep.
make X amount of money to, have a sustainable business.
Yep.
And for a long time, it was just kind of, you know, just got in there, made whatever I could and, sold what I could without really thinking about it.
Hmm.
And that's been really, really valuable. But, it's something I wish I would have learned a little bit earlier because I
Yeah.
think I would have had more direction with my business at that time. And I certainly wouldn't have hired a publicist back in those early days. Um, that was a lot of money. Well, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, Stacy. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm glad that, your tech stuff was worked out today,
Yeah, I
and that
thought.
my computer was playing really friendly today. It's like, "Oh gosh." Uh,
Yeah, yeah, I thought, oh my gosh, no, I'm gonna have to cancel. This was are we third time's gonna be a charm, but no, this
yeah.
was great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Where can everyone find you, see your work, see what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, 47 Sons Jewelry. I've got a website, 47sons.com. I'm not really doing any markets right now, but I'm, usually popping up around Portland. So Instagram is a good spot to kind of keep an eye on what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. I'll have all that in the show notes.
Okay,
Well,
awesome.
thank you again.
Thank you.
It was so nice to connect with you finally.
Thank you. Same.